Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. All right, today's a very special episode. We have Emomotimi Agama on the line, and he is the Director General over at the Securities and Exchange Commission, also known as the SEC. And today's interview is brought to you by and is part of our Mission Global Conference series, where we bring to you the best of guests that attended the conference, attendees, panelists, speakers, and really it's just one of my favorite conferences of the year. So first thing first, Timi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Adam.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about today. I definitely want to get into the changing investment landscape in Nigeria and talk about, what's been taking place there and your background in finance too, and really how what led you under this path as to becoming Director General. So we'll talk about that and more. But to get us kicked off here, I mean, the Milken Global Conference, I know you were attended this year. What were your thoughts and what's your connection to the conference?
Wow. Thank you, Adams, for this opportunity. It's always a great opportunity to give a feedback to a very fantastic conference like the Milken Global Conference. For me, it was a fantastic event. It was a great opportunity to connect. It was a great opportunity to meet great minds and to listen to them, and also to contribute to global discourse regarding finance. The Milken Institute is very, very personal to me. Personal to me in the sense that I'm an IFC Milken Institute Fellow. Indeed, the very first IFC Milken Institute Fellow from Nigeria. And so
Wow.
I am a proud ambassador of that program. And having to connect at the global conference was just an icing on the cake in a journey that has taken me a while to build. So clearly, it is a great time, and I enjoyed myself thoroughly with full-scale networking and, of course, rich discussions and eye-openers expositions that were really great to have as, a Director General of the SEC Nigeria. So,
Yeah.
speaking to my background, how I got there, well, I've been at the SEC for the last 24 years, but before that, I was at the University of Benin for 10 years. So it's been a pretty long journey. But all the same, I grew up from being a manager at the SEC in Nigeria to rise into
Wow.
the highest profile of being the Director General of the SEC Nigeria. Indeed, I am the very first, what I call long-standing staff to be
Wow.
promoted, so to speak, to becoming the Director General of the SSE in Nigeria. So I'm really proud of that achievement. And back to the fact that, being an IFC Milken Institute Fellow, it's a really, really great opportunity to show the skills, and the great intentions of the IFC Milken Institute Fellow Program, building capital market leaders in Africa specifically, and then, and the emerging market, as it were, and coming out in tops to becoming the Director General of course, Africa's most populous nations Securities Commission. It's a great fit for me.
Wow, what an amazing story. And I love to hear this, like to rise all the way to the top. What do you think is some of the things that made and I'll tell you why I'm asking you this question, by the way, Timmy, because I feel like that, we have some audience that may be a little bit earlier in their career as well. Maybe they're not to the point to attending a Milken conference yet, right? And so I like to ask what I call like a pay it forward question sometimes, and that's what this is. What kind of things do you think in your career were some of the things that let you rise to a position like that we can learn from?
Ah, great. That's cool because I also love mentoring people. And of
Mm,
course, my experiences actually shape a lot of lives, and including mine as well as I grew
mm,
up. So, one of the great things that has helped me thus far is acquisition of knowledge. I have made
mm-hmm.
sure that I acquire every amount of knowledge that I needed, as I go on, because I actually wouldn't know the one I need, at any point in time. So the best thing to do is to fill your basket with enough knowledge that you need at any point in time, and you'll be able to deal with issues. So
Mm.
persistency and consistency, resilience. These are very, very strong attributes that have made me have taken me to this point, and I'm eternally grateful for that
Mm.
doggedness that's been all through my life.
Yeah, it's amazing. Let's switching back to the investment landscape, and thank you for that in Nigeria. Let's talk a little bit about the impact of the Investment and Securities Act of 2025. Maybe first tee it up and explain it a bit so for the audience that don't know exactly what that is, and then let's go further.
Yeah, again, great opportunity. The Investment and Securities Act 2025 is a landmark legislation in Nigeria. The
Mm,
last Investment and Securities Act was actually issued in the year 2007. That was about 18 years ago. And knowing fully well the dynamics in the capital market, it was necessary to update. That
mm,
desire to update has been stalled for over 10 years. Fortunately, I became the DG of the SEC in the year 2024 on the 19th of April. And in 5 months, we're able to deal with the greatest issue that faced the Nigerian capital market. That is having a solid legal framework that encompasses the future and dynamism of the capital market and finance indeed. So for us, it is a victory. It is a worthy victory after a very, very long fight. So it is also providing an avenue that will open up the entire landscape in order
mm,
for foreign investors, local investors, and everyone that is involved in the capital market to
mm,
have, a sigh of relief, breathing in fresh air, and making sure investment climate is good enough for everybody to be involved in. Of course,
mm.
making the capital market in Nigeria a solutionist capital market that will provide the kind of investment environment that is required for an emerging market, and not just any emerging market, a strong emerging market for that matter.
Hmm. Yeah. What do you think are some of the keys when you think about for attracting either foreign investment or even local investment? Like, what are some of the things that need to happen, and whether it's this Investment and Securities Act of 2025 or otherwise? What do you think are some of the keys that are need to make that continue to happen and to thrive?
Yes, one of the key things that is required is clarity and certainty of legislation. That the
Mm,
investor, local or international, is sure of exactly what he or she is getting into and
yeah.
how issues are resolved over time. This is very, very important. Making sure that the dispute resolution mechanisms are in place, making sure there is enforcement powers, making sure that there are clarity of decisions, making sure that there
Mm,
are sanctions when necessary, making sure that there are disclosure requirements that is required, that is necessary, and meets international standards, making sure that we're part of the international community, investment community, and making dealing with the issues the way every international investment community will deal with it. These are
yeah.
very important issues that every investor looks out for, be it local, be it international. It is very important. And once you have
Mm.
that in place, then the rest will be, just jolly ride.
Yeah. Now, we know in any capital market, right, there's people, money involved. And so there's always going to be the bad apples or the bad actors or those that are trying to scam. So I'd like to ask this question to see how that's taking place in Nigeria. How are like Ponzi schemes or other, let's just say, nefarious actors, like, how are those handled?
Yes, that is also very important because Ponzi schemes, like you are aware, did not
Hmm.
start in Nigeria.
Of course.
Of course, the name Charles Ponzi came from America, from an Italian migrant. So clearly,
Take credit
but
for that one, right?
yeah.
Got it,
So,
Timmy.
so clearly it didn't start in Nigeria. But anyway, it happens everywhere. There are bad guys everywhere. But
Yeah,
what's
of
important is
course.
the regulator, the enforcer is there and able to deal with this issue. And that is
Hmm.
one very important landmark of the 2025 Investment and Securities Act. In this act, we expressly stated as a provision in the act that anyone involved in such activity will certainly have a jail term that is not less than 10 years, in
Mm.
prison. And of course, in terms of fine, there is also a fine component, which is over 20 million naira, at the first instance. So for us, it is important that everybody knows that if you
Mm.
get caught, you are going to be
Yeah.
dealt with
Yeah.
in multiple ways, not only by fine, but also imprisonment. And we
Mm.
have gone further to making sure that that information gets to the market, gets to the public, gets to the people. And so we have engaged in serious enlightenment efforts, making sure that this happens and people are aware of the consequences of dealing in this. But education is critical. Education
Hmm.
is critical for us. And so, what have we done? We've gone all around. We've gone to the marketplaces, we've gone to the schools, we've gone to conferences. We just are everywhere. And of course, we also running a podcast show at the SEC in Nigeria to be able to provide this information to the people of Nigeria and also to foreigners to make sure they understand that investments is very critical. And for you to be involved in an investment, you must have knowledge. If you do not have knowledge, you must know where to find that knowledge. But clearly,
Mm,
what is also important to mention is that these Ponzi scheme victims are not investors, because investors will not get into such activity. They are just victims. But anyhow, what
mm,
for ISA, ours is to protect investors and, of course, market development. Hence, it's our responsibility to continue to provide that education and to provide
hmm.
enforcement mechanisms to strengthen, our market and give confidence to Nigerians that are involved in investing in Nigerian market.
So we're recording this in early July for everybody listening to this, and I'm just curious on your end, Timi, as we go into the second half of the year, a lot of time left. What are some of your top priorities?
Oh, again, it's important. Thank you. This is the half year. How have we done in the previous year, previous half? Fantastic. We've done a lot. And that's one of the major highlights of the first half is the ability to get the ISA 2025 signed into law. But what about the next 6 months? Yes,
Hmm.
the next 6 months is very critical. It's very critical in laying a foundation of stability, economic growth, and that can only happen, enhancing investors' confidence. How do we want to achieve that? We want to strengthen market regulation and investor protection. How do we want to achieve that? Enforce stricter compliance with corporate governance standards for listed companies. Crack down on fraudulent schemes, Ponzi schemes, illegal forex trading to protect the retail investors because they are key to us. And also enhance whistleblower mechanisms that are provided in the new ISA 2025. This is for me very, very important. We are also going to try to encourage, capital market participation and liquidity, getting more persons into the market, getting them interested in it. And of course, that will happen through retail bond investor education,
Mm,
campaigns on the benefits of stock, the value it brings, and wealth redistribution. Encourage listings of companies will also be a priority. There's so much to do, but clearly these are things we can do because we'll highlight them. One of the critical points I would love to mention before we get out of this podcast is the fact that Nigeria, as of today, is the second country in the world that has adopted cryptocurrency and digital asset most irrespective.
mm,
So clearly, because of our population, our demography, which speaks to the fact that over 70% of Nigerians are below 30 years of age. And that tells you exactly what, they are doing.
wow.
But
Hmm.
beyond all of that, for Nigerians and the Nigerian youth, their next of kin is their mobile phone. And so it becomes important that you reach to them through that device. And that is why we are going to be able to finalize, the cryptocurrency and digital assets regulation to provide clarity, to provide certainty, and to provide confidence to the people that need it. So for us in Nigeria, the next half of the year will mean improving corporate disclosures and transparency, mandating real-time financial reporting, and everything that we need to do to give credence to the strength of the new law, fast tracking enforcement actions against
Mm,
market manipulations, and improving investor protection fund. These are clearly important steps we want to take in the next half, and we believe
mm.
strongly that the powers that we've been conferred with in the Investment and Securities Act 2025 will enable us to do this and even more for the future of Nigeria and the future of investors globally.
Amazing. Well, Timi, this has been great having you on the show today, and I'm happy to bring this information to my audience so there's more awareness around it. And congratulations on the impact you've already had this particular year and getting that passed, but also in your career. I love stories like this where somebody rises, to a prominent position and they work their way up. I think it's very inspiring and it lets other people know, in my opinion, that it can be done. It can be done. So that's
No.
wonderful. And I'm very happy to get this story to my audience. That being said, Timi, if somebody's listening or watching this, and if they want to continue following the story, whether it's of the new act, the Securities Act of 2025, or are interested in investing in Nigeria, or just following the story in general, how do they do that? How do they connect?
Yeah, so the SEC has a website. It's www.sec.gov.nj. And to make it easy, just go on Google and say SEC Nigeria, and you get it
Hmm.
through. And on our website, you find all of the information. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, So my name is Timi Agama on LinkedIn. And so you can connect with me there. You can, link up with me on other social media handles. All our social media handles of the SEC are all working. So clearly you can get through to us. On our website, you'll find our phone numbers, you'll find our email addresses, and please just feel free to reach out to us. For us at the SEC, ours is to provide an enabling environment. And I, as a steward of the nation, as a steward of Nigerian investors, we are ready to communicate. We are ready to get, to give you clarity on any issue you have a doubt about. But make sure you understand that Nigeria is a pot of opportunities. You'd better come in to take your own share.
Amazing. And for everybody watching, just so you know, we'll put some links definitely in the show notes so that you can just click on them and go check out the site and everything else. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Timi, thanks again for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Adams. I always want to be here again.